Now, South Korea's National Intelligence Service says it has what it calls credible evidence that Kim Jong Un is positioning his teenage daughter to take over from him as leader of North Korea. The move would extend the family dynasty to a fourth generation. The girl, who's believed to be about 13 years old, is being referred to by state media as Kim's most beloved or respected child. Seoul's spy agency is citing a growing number of public appearances as examples of her rising political status. These include her presence at a long-range missile test and a display of her driving a tank. Here's Lee Seong-gun, who's a member of South Korea's Parliament Intelligence Committee.
By releasing footage of her firing a weapon for the first time and staging scenes of her operating a tank, an homage to Kim Jong Un's imagery from his days as heir apparent, she seems intent on emphasizing military exceptionalism. This is analyzed as a calculated effort to project the optics of a prepared future leader, soften doubts about a female successor, and accelerate the construction of a succession narrative.
Well, let's explore this with Henry Haggard. He's a former Minister Counselor for Political Affairs at the US Embassy in Seoul and a former senior US State Department official. He's currently a senior advisor at WestExec, the strategic consulting firm set up by the former US Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Welcome to DW. Let's start with what we know about this teenager. Are we even sure of her name?
Well, Phil, yeah, great to be here. I think, her name is widely reported as Kim Jong-un, but I think really I would reframe the whole conversation because I don't think it's really as much about the message that Kim Jong-un is sending to his people, but instead the message he's sending globally to the United States and others.
And what is that message?
And the message is that this regime will continue on. In North Korea, it's important to understand that their leadership is 1/3 cult, 1/3 religion, 1/3 authoritarian regime. And so the power that they have over the messaging and how they control what the regime is doing and how they control the country and its populace is quite extraordinary. And I don't believe it can be compared to even other authoritarian regimes because of this combination that they have, this cult, religion, authoritarian regime combination. And so therefore, what we see here is a preparation for a succession of this regime order. But I don't think that's really that important. I think it's more important to say what else is going on in the world that Kim would see this is important to bring forward now. And what we see is Venezuela, Iran, we see financial insecurity. We see a time where Kim says, hey, I'm still relevant to the world, and perhaps preparing for if President Trump or when President Trump comes to the region, he is coming through and perhaps his daughter has a role. I don't think this the import that the South Koreans are putting onto this recent announcement, change in imagery, I think this is really a sideshow to the real messaging that's happening, which is this is a cult, this is a religion, this is an authoritarian regime. It will continue.
Right.
I think that's a foregone conclusion from the Kim regime's perspective.
Except I can't help thinking we've been here before. For a long time, there was talk of Kim Jong-un's sister, Kim Yo-jong, being groomed to take over. She was also being seen more frequently in public with her brother. So what's happened to her?
I don't think anything has happened to her. I don't think that was really ever part of Kim's project. And again, I'd look at our intense scrutiny of what's going on here. I think instead, while there's some speculation of health issues, I look at it more as, again, timing, message to the world, and a longer succession plan where it takes time as it took time for Kim Jong-un to be set up to succeed his father, it takes time for Kim Jong-un to be set up to be seen by her people and by the regime as legitimate. So I see this as the internal side. I see this as a natural process for Kim, the daughter, to be set up. The sister, my understanding was that she was never seen as the true successor.
Right. And so I wonder then, how would any succession work? Can a North Korean leader retire, or does he have to die in office?
Well, certainly the what we have seen so far is the current Kim Jong Un, his father and his grandfather, his father and his grandfather, they died in office. I think that's probably the safest expectation, that Kim Jong Un at 42 will either have a very long reign, or again, if there are health concerns, he could die sooner. The daughter, Kim Joo-ae, is, unclear her exact age. She's a teenager. I don't think there's any expectation she would be ready to take over now, but this is a great kind of introduction to the world as the heir apparent. It has good timing with a possible Trump summit coming up. Has good timing for Kim to say, putting aside the succession issues, say, "Hey, world, I'm still relevant. I still matter, and I still have nuclear weapons. I still have ballistic missiles, and I've got a very secure regime here that's
Right.
set for decades to come." And I think that's the real message, and that's the most important thing that's going on in North Korea right now.
Thanks for talking us through that. Henry Haggard from WestExec.
Nice speaking to you, Phil.
Let's bring in Hazel Smith here. She's a professor focusing on Korea at SOAS University of London. Hazel, what do we know about Kim Joo-ae, the teenage daughter of North Korea's leader Kim Jong Un?
Well, I'm sorry to say we don't know much more, and neither do the South Korean intelligence services, who know more than anybody else than what has been said in your introduction here. She's about 13. We don't know exactly when she was born. And the only reason we know about when she was born is because a famous American basketball player, Dennis Rodman, happened to be visiting just after she was born and told everybody in the US when he got back that this baby was born. The South Korean intelligence services occasionally say that they think that she might have an older brother and a younger sibling, but nobody knows for sure. Because North Korea has not announced anything publicly in terms of the children, and also because the only one we've seen in public has been this young lady here.
Yeah, it's a little bit like trying to read tea leaves here, because we just don't know really what's going on in North Korea. Kim Jong Un has been appearing, though, with his daughter in public for quite some time. Why are South Korean intelligence agencies concluding only now, after the two were seen together on a tank, that she will be his successor?
Well, I think what the serious issue is, and the things that we can say, is that I agree with the South Korean leader who you just presented here, the excerpt, is what the North Korean government, led by the Kims, are trying to do is to show to their own people and to the rest of the world that as far as they're concerned, that there's going to be no change in the future in terms of the style of government. In other words, it's going to continue to be a family, authoritarian country led symbolically and in practice by somebody in the family. We don't know, and also in North Korea, they haven't announced it publicly. So we don't know who will be the exact successor in a few years' time. After all, she is only about 13, and a lot can happen between now and, say, when she's 18 or so. But what we do know, and the message is loud and clear, and that comes through in the deliberately staged photography that we've been seeing in the videos, is that this is a government led by the Kim family, and that they intend to make sure that in some way or other, whatever happens to the current leader, that style of government will continue.
So there's continuity there in the dynasty, at least that seems to be what the signaling tells us. Do you see parallels here to Kim Jong Un's own path to power?
Only in the very broadest sense, in that what we knew beforehand was that the intention was that there would be a Kim family member in place, that it would be the same style of government, they would have the same domestic policy, they would have the same foreign policy. And that basically has happened with some tweaks. When Kim Il-sung died, I was in North Korea just after Kim Il-sung died in 1994, and also in 2011, when his son died and the current leader took over. But having said that, in both cases, there was a period of transition. When Kim Il-sung died in 1994, there was several weeks, in fact, it was 3 years before Kim Jong Un, his son, actually was seen visibly. So the best analysis that we had is that it wasn't, although his leadership was designed to be taken over by the Kim family, that there was some toing and froing between the various important families inside North Korea, because it's not just the Kim family that's important. There are other families that's important. In terms of the daughter, Jua, one of the things that's likely to happen, I think, is that she'll be married off to somebody also in an important family in North Korea, and that will consolidate the political relationships that helped to keep the country running internally.
Interesting. Well, for a long time, Kim Jong Un was seen at public appearances with his sister, Kim Yo-jong, and many thought she would be the next leader. What's become of her?
Well, she's still important. She's been moved around in terms of the positions that she holds. A few weeks ago in a party committee meeting, an important party committee meeting. But she's still an important person. And of course, if the father, the current leader, was to die, and he's obviously ill, he's obese, I don't think that that's a big secret. And he's been in and out of, apparently, from health problems. If he was to die early or become incapacitated, she would, the sister, Kim Jo-young, would be in line to be regent. And in a sense, that would be, again, just simply saying to the domestic public, it's not just the Kim family that's in charge, but the policies that we have of repression, of making people do not have access to civil liberties, that they will continue, and the development of the nuclear program will continue. And that's the important thing for external interlocutors, to know that everywhere that they're signalling is a continuation of current policies, never mind just the faces that are in charge.
Hazel, thanks for your insights. That was Hazel Smith from the SOAS University of London.
Thank you.